Hello, welcome to another Sonic Lab special. We're here with Tim from Nektar, who's, you may have seen some of our videos. We've seen Tim at various trade shows around the world. He's shown Panorama P4 system, which is a very deeply integrated controller. Now, obviously, you know, there's a lot more sort of under the hood going on. And also, they are now distributing Bitwig, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, in the UK, US, Nektar distribute Bitwig.
So we're going to take a look at how Nektar and Bitwig integrate with the P4, but first let's have a quick recap of what the P4 has to offer, right?
Sure. Well, P4 is an incredibly advanced controller with over 90 assignable parameters. You have this kind of mixer layout here. You have a bank of 8 over here, which is often switchable through the soft keys down at the bottom. Navigation controls down here for moving around the door and changing patches on your plugins. And then extended transport control over here. There's also a quick modifier for F keys, where F1 to 11 come to life, which we tend to use for macro support because we actually don't just send MIDI, we can send ASCII keystrokes as well.
Ah, okay.
You have mode buttons up here for DAW support, mixer, instrument, transport, and then internal is the internal preset operation. And then over here we have a 100mm Alps fader section.
That's motorised.
It's motorised, it's touch sensitive, it's high resolution, so not just 7-bit MIDI, high resolution stuff. Sends over 1024 steps in this 100mm that you see here.
So most people are probably familiar with Mackie Huey and that kind of protocol for integration, but this is a different beast altogether, right?
Well, yes, we do our own protocols purely because the Mackie protocol was written for the Mackie controller, and other people were borrowing parts of that protocol. Really, when you're designing integration for a controller, you really want to make sure every control has a distinct purpose and get the best out of it. And we find that we can't do that with existing protocols. We write our own, which is a lot of work. We do it for each individual DAW separately, but once it's done, you know, we can expand on that, and we continue to expand on that. And we have a full flexibility of what we want to do.
So we've got Bitwig running here, and we're just hooked up over USB, right?
Yes, that's right. The power for the Panorama is provided by, it's USB powered by itself, although you can't power a motorised fader with 500 milliamps, so we have a mini jack here which we use to provide extra power if you want to use the motor of the fader as well. This is a Type B connector that you can plug in a phone charger effectively,
right, yeah.
And power it that way. Of course you can use a powered hub or 2 USB ports either way, but I actually at home use the phone charger, just save me a
It's much easier, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know.
So let's take a look at, you know, what do you want to show us today with Bitwig?
Okay, sure. Well, as I said, we've got mixer, instrument and transport that we use for navigation. It's like having 3 control surfaces in one. So if we start with the mixer, the first thing you'll notice is that on the display here you have a very clear display, TFT colour display, and it allows us to kind of tie the whole integration together in a way where you can really focus on what you're doing on the instrument that you're playing rather than having to keep looking over at the computer, which is over here at the side, so you won't see me looking over there very much through this demonstration. The first thing you'll notice is that you have your mixer channels available in the display, and the faders are not quite in position. We have the one motorised fader here, and you'll see if I change the track then it's going to jump to the position of that track. And again, if I change the volume of the selected track, which is shown in white on the display, then the motor fader is going to pick up. And
that's handy for automation and stuff, I guess.
It's really handy for automation because it's so sensitive, 1024 steps, high resolution. It's also touch sensitive, so you can obviously use touch and latch when you're writing automation as well. And it stays assigned to the selected track that you're playing and performing with your control, regardless of which mode you're in. I said we had 3 modes. We've got instrument and transports. If I'm playing around with the instrument parameters here, I can still have my channel control over here, channel volume. So you can see that the nice thing about that from the keyboard player's perspective, and we always look at when we design a product, from the work, we always focus on the workflow of the most common user, which is obviously going to be a keyboard player or a producer who wants some keys in order to put music into a DAW and record it. It's always nice to know that you've got your channel over here. It takes away the thought of which control do I need to turn down, if you see what I mean. Which mixer channel am I working on? But going back to the multi-channel display that you see here, one of the things you'll notice is that some of these controls that aren't motorized are out of position. And what happens is, in that case, you get the display showing you the red light here.
Okay, so it shows you where. So
it shows you where it is, so you can see very clearly what the software value is, which is one of the reasons a lot of people like motorized faders, is because they want to see an overview of their mix, which is what you get from this display. And you'll notice that you don't get any jumping parameters until you actually pick up to the spot. We've obviously, throughout all of our doors, we work with a soft takeover algorithm, which you're seeing there.
Right.
So carrying on with the mixer, you obviously got your channel volumes. This is the master volume, and you have track selects down here, and then up here you have obviously pans and sends. Now, one of the things that's annoying, this is a fairly standard setup, of course, but one of the things that's annoying is that if you wanted to get to send 8 from pan, you have to toggle all the way through. So little things like that, the stifle workflow, we've addressed by any button where there's a toggle like that, you can hold down and just scroll through with the mixer, so it's much quicker to get to where you want it to be.
So you can go through the available pans.
I should just first of all say that every single control that you're seeing here is in mixer mode. If you go to instrument mode, every single control is dedicated to the instrument or the device in Bitwig, and in transport it's a similar thing. You have your transport controls over here, tempo, pre-roll, and then over here you have a step sequencer as well. But going back to mixer, we'll just have a look at what these do quickly. They start by being mapped to macros, and if I press the macros button, you'll see that actually there's no macros on this preset that we have. And in Bitwig, macros are 8 controls per preset.
They're like, super
so
mapping.
You save them with your favourite presets, and that's what these would map to. And a lot of devices by default with Bitwig will map to the macros, and so we just made it very quick and easy to do that. And again, because everything that's down here is based on the track that you're controlling, so if I change the track, then you can see my macros update as well. Same thing for the sends. Different send levels depending on whichever track I'm recording from the keys.
Right.
So it's always whichever track you're focused on, whichever track selected that you're playing, that's what you've got control of in this display here. And then we've got 8 user controls that you can assign very quickly just by control click on any control throughout the session, and then you can put them on here, so they're accessible in mixer mode. That's per session in Bitwig. They don't stay assigned to those.
If you're working on beats, you think I really need a reverb send quick, or whatever it may be, or some kind of deeper control, you could just quickly.
Exactly, and it takes you away from the fact that these are always at the moment tied to the track you're controlling, because you can have these on across multi channels.
Okay,
that's the reason for those. And then just to finish off the mixer side, you've got the clips and the scenes view.
Right, and this is something that's kind of the amalgamation of the kind of live type view of Bitwig and the linear track. So this addresses that, right?
Yeah, this gives you full control of the launcher. Obviously, you can trigger and record clips from here. If I press this, press play, try for a new one. Okay, so
and that's very immediate.
It's very immediate, and what's nice is that because, as I said, everything that you see down here is related to the keyboard that you're controlling. It's like having little clips of recording slots.
So those pads in that instance you're using as clip launchers rather than as rhythm pads, right?
Exactly, that's exactly right. If I wanted to go back, if I go to a drum track and I wanted to do some playing, I can just hit the pads button, which immediately gives me rhythm pads on there. But then I go back to my mixer, my clips, you see, and they've got clip triggering instead. So it's quite easy to find your way around. You're triggering clips when the clips are in the display.
Right, got you. The pads, obviously velocity sensitive. They got pressure as well?
Yes, pressure sensitive too. Going back to the pad button. At the moment, all the pressure sensitive is off, as you can see, but they can be assigned to all kinds of different
so you can do
MIDI controllers, or even you can use them to change like pad velocity. So you could be, using the pressure of one pad to change the velocity that you're playing on another one. Kind of thing. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can control, and actually all of that's a feature. What you're seeing in the pads at the moment is just a feature of Panorama. Regardless, it's not our integration that's doing that. It's just a feature that you get for any DAW, effectively. I'm just going to show you a couple of cool things that you can do with clips and scenes on the Panorama. So if I just go to, if find a bass track. If I wanted to lay down some bass with the track that I've got. If I go to the scenes, you can see I've got a groove, and I've got a main riff as well. So my song is, you've noticed as well, you see the different names of the scenes on here as well.
Yeah, so that's handy for feedback, isn't it?
Exactly, very handy, yeah. It's something that I think has been missing on the blinky light controllers, where you have like colours indicating you when there's something there, but you don't know what it is until you press the thing. So for production in particular, when you're spending a lot of time kind of like at one station like this, it's nice to be able to see what you're actually doing. And
that's just brought over from the DAW. You don't have to name it in here, do you? So.
Yep, this is everything you see on this display is coming from the DAW,
right.
And through our kind of translation layer that we did with the Bitwig API. So okay, we've got three scenes we can work with. And what I can do, I've got no clips at all. But what you can do with Panorama, you saw me kind of just jam one in on the fly there by hitting it and then stopping it to play. But one of the problems with that is sometimes you press it too early, too late, and you end up with silence. So then you have to go into Bitwig
and
trim the loop back down again. So what's nice about the Panorama is if you hold down Shift when you've got the clips in view, and I turn the data encode, you can see that I can set my new clip length. So I can set myself 4 bars in each of those, and then maybe...
Oh, so you multi-select as well?
That's right. And for the fill that we saw earlier, or we heard earlier, I could go to a 2-bar one and stick that in there. So I've got a 4-bar clip here. I've got a 2-bar clip going on there. I've got a 2-bar clip there, and I've got a 4-bar clip there. And what I can do then is if I use, again using Shift and hitting record, that toggles the launcher overdub, like so, which means it turns red, which means I'm ready to record into that clip when I start playing.
Adding rather than you're contributing to the clip rather than overwriting it.
Exactly, yeah. But now what I can do is I can go to the scenes and I can just bring in the scene and record on the fly, which is quite a nice way of working. It's kind of like combining performance and production into one, and that's kind of, you know, much more fun than going in one bit at a time, you see. So what I can do is I can now hit the main riff, maybe just jam in something. Go to the next, then we can go to the next scene.
And that's just cycling round it.
Exactly. Hit the groove. Okay, so you get the idea. Then now I can play back what I just did.
Alright, you're triggering entire clips, but you've just been recording it into one pattern for each of those clips.
Oh, I'm triggering scenes, but because I had launcher overdub on, it triggers the empty clips that I set up from Panorama, and then I can jam into those clips.
Right.
So it's like you're playing along with the song, but you're also recording at the same time.
But you can be selectively cycling. So it's like, I haven't quite finished that. What I need for this scene, ready for the next one, and you're in the group. I see. All right. Okay. Yeah, I understand. Neat.
Bitwig was the first time that we came across that we've integrated a DAW. Obviously, we've got Ableton to go as well, but Bitwig was the first time we looked at it and saw how do we deal with this clips and scenes in the launcher. How does that fit in with the workflow of a Panorama user? And that's kind of our take on it.
Right.
As you can see. Okay, so that's kind of a very quick look at Mixer. Let's go to the instruments. Now, the instrument mode in Bitwig it enables you to control the device chain, the entire chain. Okay, if there's more than one device in the device chain, you can scroll along with the data encoder. So if I just go to a track with more than one device, you can see this one's got 3 on the computer display there. I can just select the device by moving along in the chain as I like. You can see there we've got a distortion plugin, we've got a filter plugin, and at the moment they're just disabled, like so. So you hear if I want to add some distortion, turn it on.
Distorted double bass, it's the future.
God, that sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Doesn't leave much room for anything else, but who cares?
Exactly. Anyway.
So you can access all the individual parameters of the plugins?
Yep, of any device on the fly. So if we just look at how that works, let's go to the polysynth, because the polysynth is kind of like the go-to synth, I think, for a lot of people who have started with Bitwig these days. It's a great plugin. And the first thing you see is you get a patch up here. So I can scroll through my patches with these buttons. And that works in any mode.
That's handy, because quite often with MIDI controllers, changing patches in any device can be a bit
it's such an important tool for any producer. Having it right in front of you is so important. You can see the patch name is up here in mixer mode, and it's the same thing in instrument mode. It's just you get a full kind of big view of your patch name.
So presumably there must be multiple pages, because obviously there's more parameters than just...
Of course there is, yeah. We got the 8. I'll show you how these relate to Bitwig in a minute, but yeah, you've got 8 common parameters there. Over here you've got envelopes. You can see you've got attack, decay. If I press the envelope button, you can see exactly where we are. And again, just like mixer mode, if it's out of position, it doesn't pick up until you go to that point.
Oh, that's it. So
which works nice. So you never get any jumping volume, jumping parameters, nothing. In the patch page, you get your macros again. So as you change there, you get different macros for each patch.
Yep.
And then you can browse patches as well by category. So if I wanted to go to let's go to a synth, a lead synth maybe. And then I can now go through the different leads. Now, as I mentioned before with this button, anything that can be cumbersome, if you know which patch you want to get to, scrolling with patch buttons can be cumbersome. So if I hold it down, I can go through them like this as well. So you can really kind of scroll through them quickly. And so to get to the actual pages, hit the pages button. Pretty straightforward. And then you have oscillators, filters, LFOs, everything that you need to work with really. One of my favourite pages is this modulator page, which allows you to set, for example, we could set a modulation wheel up as a modulation source. It's one of the really good unique features of Bitwig Studio, but you'll see that I've selected modulation wheel as my modulation source in here. It's flashing on Panorama. Just to bring you over to Bitwig's display, you can see what that does here. This is your modulation source, and everything is turned blue, which means I can map the depth of any of these parameters to my modulation wheel. But I don't need to do it in the software. I can do that on Panorama as well.
Right.
So for example, if I wanted it to control the filter cutoff, filter frequency, for example, I can whack that straight up now, and when I turn that off,
just map that.
It's mapped straight away, just like that. And you can do that for as many parameters as you want. You can even modulate other modulators. It's a pretty great system.
So it's almost you're using kind of the Panorama then becomes part of the synthesis process, effectively.
Yeah, sound design.
Right.
Exactly. So, yeah, so that's really powerful when you combine with the step sequencer, which we'll look at in a bit as well. But ultimately, that's kind of a description of the instrument mode and how you can control the device chain, the entire device chain of Bitwig.
Right, so what's next?
So the next thing, I guess, is transport mode, the final mode of real kind of DAW integration for Panorama. Here you can see you have 8 useful controls, so I can change the tempo on the fly. Set up your pre-roll for recording, shuffle, and groove amounts as well, which is always nice to play with.
Oh, so you can get into quantize.
Yep. Turn the groove off and reshuffle. You can hear the shuffle coming in again now. Change the rate of the shuffle.
Right.
So you can see it affects the kind of playback, the performance of the sequencer, if you like. We've also got another interesting button here called the step sequencer. And if I go to a track, let's go to a bass track with something boring. That sounds pretty boring. Okay, so I'm going to go into the mixer and I'm going to add a new clip. Now the way that Bitwig works with its step sequencer, because this is controlling the internal step sequencer of Bitwig. Right. The way it works is that you have to have, first of all, have the launcher in view, in focus, and I can do that by pressing the view button.
Oh, and then
the view is focused onto the launcher here in Bitwig, and I can set myself up a clip, an empty clip of just 1 bar, like so. You can see that I've added a
white highlighted one
there. Yep. Of course, you don't need to look over there because it's here. It's number 3. So I'll start that playing back now. And if I go to transport mode and the step sequencer, you'll see that I have my steps coming up over here.
Oh, right.
So I've got steps 1 to 8 here, and then 9 to 16 there as well. And I've got up to 32 steps supported. I can change the step size as well. But what's nice is so I can now just choose the note I want to sequence. Let's just solo it so you can hear a bit more what I'm doing. And then I can add those notes in, like so. So it's quite easy to do. And then over here on the what's worth doing is changing the note velocities, which come from these faders. So you can draw in like a graphical map, if you like, of the note velocity. And I'm just going to put those back in again, because at the moment in Bitwig you have to re-trigger it when you change the note velocity, which is a bit of a shame. Hopefully we'll fix that soon. So now, although this patch doesn't sound like it's velocity sensitive at the moment, what's happening there is it's just sending the same note at different velocities. So if I set up the note velocity as my modulation source, now I can go to the filters page. I think it's on the tone. There we go. And then I can modulate the maybe add some resonance to it.
It's almost like sample and hold you've got going on there. Again,
exactly.
Becomes part of the sort of sound design aspect of it.
It does, yeah, in a very powerful way. And what's nice, I mean, this isn't anything you can play with the keys, is it? This is something that brings another element to your production with Panorama.
And that's now written into that clip, basically.
Exactly, so if I bring this in.
Right.
The other thing the step sequencer does is you can do multiple notes as well per step. So now I've got a different note to sequence. I can start adding in, play some chords in.
So you're overdubbing the steps.
Exactly, overdubbing the steps with different notes. The other thing you can do is almost set up an arpeggiation, because you can see as I change the notes up here, the note is given up here. In the number at the moment, that's something I want to change so that actually shows you the MIDI note. But you can see here that I can now change some of those notes to be, so I can then sequence. So you can add like almost like an arpeggiation as well. So yeah, so
quite creative, yeah.
Creative and yeah, ultimately lots of fun too.
So is the are the concurrent sort of evolution of what the DAW can do with the P4? Is that an ongoing thing? So you can kind of go,
always,
I just thought of something we could use that for, and that's more features all the time, right?
Yeah, always. We continue to expand our support, not just with Bitwig, with other DAWs that we support.
So P4 is available now, right? So people can buy this. This is the only format that the Panorama comes in.
Nope, you have the P6, which is the 61 key version, and the P1, which gives you this kind of navigation and control that a lot of users want, but some people don't want the keys. Do
you get the fader?
You don't get the motorized fader. You don't get the pads.
Right.
But you do get this kind of navigation, the free modes of integration that we've just seen.
Right. Great, Tim. Thank you very much.
Always. Thanks.
Excellent. So that's the first video that we've done with the Panorama P4, obviously integration with Bitwig. We've got a couple of other episodes to follow, so please do watch those as well.